Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to TLT Talks. We have a very exciting program for you today. We haven't done a lot. We haven't done like a ton on this show in the way of this one very big mystery in the world of real estate, and that has to do with new development. You know, when you go online to a StreetEasy or a Property Shark or an Acris or whatever, and you want to look up some past comparables, if you want to take a look at, you know, what has sold, what's in contract, kind of all that stuff. 1 second. Instagram, what's happening? Freezing a little bit. Think we got it? Maybe. Did we? There we go.
Yeah, we did it.
It was freezing a little bit on me. So I was just saying that we're talking about this big mystery today called new development. That if you're a consumer out there and you want to go online and check out information, what's in contract, prices, this, that, the other, for regular units, co-ops, condos, rental buildings is easy. But if there's a new development and there's 300 units and you want to know how well is it moving, how many things have they sold, there's nothing on the market. There was nothing on the market that. And so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Kael from Marketproof. Kael, I won't waste much time with an intro because you're here. So I know how valuable it is what you've built, but tell the people who you are. Why should they care about you? Why should they care what you have to say? What do you got for us, sir?
Oh man, great. Thanks so much for having me on your show. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
So, the new development world is a bit different than the resale world, right? The seller is a builder or developer of a building. There's a lot of units in the building. And the way that they used to get sold is you pop a few listings out into the various systems that distribute the listings, and then you'd be sitting on all the other units, kind of keeping them in the background in what we call, the shadow inventory. And in 2019, there was an article in the New York Times, September 2019, and it talked about all the shadow inventory. And it was really the first time an article was published publicly that kind of brought all this out into the open. And the kind of light bulb went off in my head, like, oh, let's really take a look at this thing. Marketproof had been around. We had massive amounts of data. I used to own Brownstone, a media brand here in Brooklyn. And we'd had this software, been running for a lot of years, and we had just tons of data, but we hadn't really isolated the new development inventory, and neither had anybody else.
Right.
So we jumped in at it. We started collecting offering plans. So offering plans are where developers submit all the information about a particular building. There's something in there called a Schedule A, and the Schedule A details out all the units in the building, the prices, the bedrooms, baths, square feet, all that stuff. And so we just started collecting all that stuff and created really New York City's first inventory of new development condos. So we could really see the listed units, the ones that are in contract, the ones that are sold, and then the ones you're talking about, which are the shadow units.
Yeah, it's really cool. Guys, I played with this thing. If I'm totally honest, I was skeptical at first. Someone reached out to me, hey, there's this new software, this new thing. I'm like, another new thing. And then I got in, I played around, and it is really cool. I mean, it is for sure something that our industry has been missing. Very intuitive, very user-friendly. I mean, if you're one of these, I have issues with tech, you can't have issues with this thing. It's literally like plug and play, very easy. So yeah, I mean, first let me say congratulations, right? As an entrepreneur, I think entrepreneurs are the way to move everything forward, right? Entrepreneurship is the way to move everything forward because by very nature, entrepreneurship is solving problems. And there was this gap in the market, and there's all these brilliant people out there, and no one either thought it important enough or themselves skilled enough to solve for it. And you just saw the world through a different filter and went and solved it. So let me just start by saying, congratulations.
But listen, I'm going to tell you, this is a COVID baby.
There you go.
If it hadn't been for COVID, we wouldn't have had the time, maybe the headspace to really think this problem through.
Yeah. So look, let me say both. Congratulations. And now as a user of this thing, let me say thank you, because my goodness, is my world. And
Eugene, I lost your audio.
as an entrepreneur, am I back now? Testing,
Yeah.
testing.
Yep.
I got a phone call coming in. Do not disturb, and still somehow the phone call got through. As an entrepreneur, I totally lost my train of thought.
Yeah. Want me to save you here?
Well, yeah. What was I saying? I got totally distracted. What
Um,
was I saying?
This is the great thing about doing these things live. You get these
There you
impromptu
go.
moments.
Yeah.
So
You know
fun, right?
what?
This is
Shit
good.
happens. Yeah.
This
Shit
is life,
happens.
you
Shit
know?
happens. I think I was saying as an entrepreneur, the way to move things forward is to see things. And so you saw something other people didn't.
Yeah.
And now as a consumer
But I
of,
got to be honest with you. When we first started, we were not thinking about brokers.
wow, interesting.
You know, what was going to happen, right? So we launched this thing, really started to launch the end of 2020. Right. It took us, you know, a few months, right, with our heads down to like figure this out, get the software built, get all the data into it. And our first customer was a hedge fund.
Oh, interesting.
And that was really where
Interesting.
we were thinking, was that it was unclear what was going to happen in New York.
Right.
And people were thinking that, you know, condos were going to be available in bulk.
Right.
And so we were really targeting, you know, financial players.
There you go. You know,
but
sometimes it's funny. You start in one direction and you end up somewhere. You listen, Compass started off as a red backpack rental company. You know, like
Urban Compass back in the day.
There you go. Urban Compass.
That's right. I remember it well. It was such an interesting idea, and these things morph over time.
Yep. I mean, Amazon. My God, how many times has Amazon evolved? You know, like, well, let's jump in. Let's jump in.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we get you out of here at 12:30. I'm really respectful of people's time. So talk to me about, you know, what are you seeing? I mean, you have access now to information that you're sharing with people, but you're studying at a level most people aren't. So, you know, it's an interesting time in markets and in the economy, and you know, it's an interesting time, and we're living in unprecedented times. Tell me what you're seeing. You know, what does your purview look like?
Yeah, well, let me just start by saying my goal, I do have access to all this information, but my goal is to make this information available to everybody.
There you go.
You know, the tools that, right, so we have all this data in there, but what we're building is tools that make it so that anybody who has access to, who has a subscription to our system, can analyze this stuff themselves. And we're making it easier and easier over time for everybody.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, if I think about what you built here, it's like, you know, the game has changed. I've been a basketball fan my entire and fan my entire life. And, you know, we're in the playoffs now, and it's like for anyone.
You're going straight into the Warriors, aren't you?
Yeah, you know.
Here we go. Here it comes.
The game has changed. You know, it used to be I mean, I'm dating myself here, but if you go back to the 90s and early 2000s, it was all about the big man. You know, whether it was Hakeem or Shaq, it was about, you got to find yourself that center stud that you could run the offense through. And today, nobody cares about a big man. It's all about, can you launch it from half court at 30% efficacy? You know, and you're Damian Lillard, and you're Steph Curry, and you're
Ja Morant.
Ja Morant. They changed the game, right? So similarly, you know, from where I sit, you know, the real estate game has changed. My role in the transaction and as a value add has completely shifted. It's no longer, I used to be the gatekeeper. I used to be, you know, the real estate agent, and there was no teams back then. There was no team leaders, or I was frowned upon even. Yeah. But as an agent, your job was to give consumers access to property. And, you know, with Acris and Property Shark and Zillow and Street and all these different tools.
Listen, what we're doing is building on something that Street Easy started 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right there, if you go back and you look at that stuff, that was all about building transparency.
Yeah, well, it's not what they're about today, but that's a whole different conversation.
Look, I don't want to get into
you better not become a Street Easy.
I'm talking about Street Easy.
Us on transparency, and then
10 years ago.
Street Easy.
But they look, regardless of what happened with their business model, they brought a lot of information out and really educated the consumer.
That's right.
And now, look, Marketproof is B2B. Like, we are not working with the end consumer. Our goal is to inform the agent, the developer, the bank, all the different participants that are on our platform, to give them even more information. So let me give you an example, if I can.
Yeah, of course.
So, like I said, we started with financial customers, but it very quickly started moving towards agents.
Mm-hmm.
Because agents who are more data-driven, more able to use the tools, started to gravitate towards what we were doing and using it to really help their customers. So one scenario that I see a lot is, let's say you have that building, it has 10 listings, but there are 100 units in the building.
Mm-hmm.
Unit 5C may be the one that's listed, but in that line there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Right.
They also haven't been sold.
Right.
And what I see agents doing is going to the sales agent, right, in the sales gallery or wherever, and saying, hey, look, my client is interested in a higher floor, and I've got this stacking plan here. Right? We generate these visual representations of every building. I've got this stacking plan here that I got from Marketproof, and it has these other units in the line. Hey, my client is interested in 10C. Do you think we could get that one?
There you go. Beautiful.
And so then it creates more liquidity, more opportunity for both sides to transact.
Sure. Yeah, beautiful. And that's spot on with what I was saying. Our value, the agent's value today isn't access anymore. I mean, there's the 3 to 5% of off-market stuff, but we are consultants today. We are, here's what you can't see online. You can see that even though it says, contract signed, that price is the last asking price. You as the consumer don't know. Is there a bidding war? Is there just the one offer? Is it good depending where markets are going? Like we are, we are very much today advisors or consultants if you're doing it right as an agent versus gatekeepers, which if you think about is the way it should be. Like if you think about the stock market, everyone's got access to the information, but most people work with a wealth advisor to help them pick things out. Same with cars. Same with you got legals, you might be called or whatever.
Categories. Right, all categories.
That's right.
And Eugene, it's just everything is changing so fast.
So fast. Crazy.
I mean, nobody.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nobody expected that 2021 would have a level of sales that it had. I mean, for new development condos, it was record-breaking month after month.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Crazy. It's as if the real estate market in 2020 was a slingshot. It's like as far as things pulled back,
right,
they just catapulted.
Yeah, great way to think about it.
And it's like 20. I remember like it was yesterday because I'm like I don't even think of myself as a broker as much as an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur is a data scientist, right? You can't afford to operate on story as an entrepreneur. Everything is measure and metrics. There can't be any assumption, right? And so I just remember studying the market month after month. And in 2021 January, it's like someone flipped a switch and everyone just forgot that markets were down 30-40%. And all of a sudden overnight they're up. Like it was.
And then by the time we got to summer, it was just really cranking. But let me tell you something. So one thing that's really important to remember around that is just kind of going back to the shadow inventory.
Yeah.
So like right now in the market, there are still over 12,000 new development units available.
Beautiful.
Over 12,000. It peaked last year before the sales really kicked in at somewhere between 14 and 15,000. So there's still a lot of units.
That's right. Which is what you want, right? Because low inventory creates a market where they're going to push rates up on you because prices go up. And so you always want a healthy amount of inventory.
And on the resale side, like resale condos today in the 5 boroughs, there's a little over 4,000 units. It's a very low number. It's pretty steady right now at about that level. So if you compare, I've got to get my hands in the screen here, right? Right. You got the resales here, but the new development is here.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen next? Again, like is super surprise, as we've gone through this cycle. Now you've got the mortgage rates. Everybody knows mortgage rates just are ticking. What's going to happen next? Well, let me just share. One of the things that we've seen. So we saw a lot of movement out to Brooklyn and Queens for affordability, lifestyle, right? People working from home. But in the last few weeks now, we're seeing a lot of movement back towards Manhattan.
Yep.
And you're seeing that?
Same thing, yeah. Well, because for a while, Brooklyn and Queens especially was more value, more bang for your buck, more value, or same price, but way better product, tax abatements, all that jazz. And over the last 10 years, it's kind of caught up. So now when you look at, look, if you compare Williamsburg to a Soho or a Columbus Circle, well, of course. But if you compare Williamsburg or Brooklyn Heights to an Upper East Side or to a Lower East Side, on certain products, the Brooklyn products are now going to be more expensive, partially because of the tax abatements. So yeah, we're seeing things level out. And, we've seen this for a couple of years now where, Manhattan's become more affordable again. And, the Brooklyn neighborhoods are like thriving because there's a lot more development happening in Brooklyn than there is Manhattan. And so all of a sudden it's like people are moving back to the city because they're getting more value. I couldn't even believe it. The first client we moved from Brooklyn to Manhattan, because they were getting more value was like 4 years ago. And I was like, what just happened? Like, what in the world?
So you saw a moment in time where somebody was going the other way.
Yeah, it was incredible. And it's become like a trend. Well, yeah, so that's a great transition. Tell me, so other than that, like, what, again, you've got access to so much data. What are you seeing? What are you seeing in the marketplace? Like, what can you share? I mean, the people that this is going to get recirculated to over 100,000 people, and on the list it's going to be entrepreneurs, it's going to be agents, it's going to be clients. It's a wide array of watchers, of viewers. So, your wisdom is very well received and appreciated. Tell us what you're seeing in the marketplace.
Well, I think, part of this movement back to Manhattan is less rate sensitive buyers.
Mm-hmm.
These are buyers who may not be getting a mortgage at all. Maybe they're a cash buyer.
Mm-hmm.
But also they just, the cost of the increase in monthlies is not as important to them.
Right.
And one thing that we've got our eyes on is whether or not discounting has started to increase again.
Mm-hmm.
Discounting, right? So the lowering of the prices, it was going down and down, where the listings were, the properties were really going at the listing price, closer and closer to the listing price. And we were reaching, almost to zero in many cases. But now the question is it starting to go back the other way, right? Is the curve now starting to edge back up? I don't know if you're seeing that at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. What we have to be really careful about. So I sit in on a Monday morning sales meeting with 500 other Compass agents, and around January there was a big concern about inventory. The media has a really big implication of how we think about. You and I, prior to getting on this Instagram, we caught up and we talked about this whole Tony Robbins thing and mindset and yada yada, right? And so people, we don't mean it to be, but all of our decisions 80% of all of our decisions or thoughts come subconsciously. We don't need to think them, we just do. And we're constantly being imprinted on by media, by social media, by all this stuff. So as soon as, it was around December where media started to shift from, oh my God, prices are crazy, whatever, to our prices coming down, inventory is so low. And all of a sudden I'm sitting in a Compass meeting with 500 agents and I'm hearing a lot of concern or stress around inventory. And it's like, all of a sudden everyone forgot, guys, it's January. Like the inventory is always low in January. This is when people are not selling. It's normal.
Right.
So I was the voice of reason there to say, like, pick up my hand and say, hey guys, look, I'm not saying things
Take
are good.
a step back, wider lens.
That's right. Just zoom out. Like if you look at the last 5 years and you look at the percentage of inventory in January versus September, well, of course you're going to feel it thin out. Then now I'm starting to see some things in the media around prices. Are prices finally dropping? Are prices finally dropping? Well, again, really important to consider, and this is where no matter what you see online, you need an expert. Are prices dropping because they're being listed at the right prices and the market demand has softened, or and you can bunch into that buying power has been a little more limited with increasing rates, or are sellers and sponsors being a little overly ambitious? They want 10% above the last comp. They're advised that's probably not going to work out by an expert, assuming they've hired an expert. They launch, oh, it didn't work out, let's drop the price. And that's why prices are dropping. Because also what happens in a seller's market is the sellers, they want to play. They want to try to get as much as possible, which is understandable.
Right. So the way we try to think about that is price versus sales velocity.
There you go.
And if you think about it, like, keep the prices high, less velocity.
That's right.
Less units sold per month. Lower your prices, more velocity.
That's right.
And
so it's I'm sorry, go on.
Well, and some, like, especially for new development developers,
Yeah.
some of them, they have bank financing they got to deal with. They got to increase they got to keep the velocity up in order to make those, those payments on their construction and their loans.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic. We just launched 2 new developments. We took it over from another broker, and
All right, let's take a look.
What's that?
Let's take a look at it here, right?
And the first conversation, which I think gets missed a lot in our industry, is what are you optimizing for? Are you optimizing for top dollar, or are you optimizing for velocity? Like, which one? Because the strategies are completely counterintuitive, right? Or rather opposite, right? Like, and so not just in price, but also in concessions, marketability, the way you market, the language, all of it, right? So yeah, so again, I'm still seeing from where I sit, I'm still seeing a really strong market. We launched in the last 2 months. We launched 3 bedrooms. We launched a 3-bedroom on Park Avenue in 79 for $4 million, $4.5 million, and we were in contract, all cash, very close to the asking price, an ambitious asking price. Within 30 days, we do a lot in Williamsburg, and we launched a couple things over at the Edge where we do a lot. And we set 4 different records. Everything went to contract in another 30 days. We launched a new development, 1 in Bushwick, 1 in Queens, and those are moving fast. And when we took over from the previous broker, we did not drop pricing. We felt it wasn't being marketed.
Well, let me ask you, so
yeah,
some buildings, like there was a period of time where the biggest buildings were the ones that were selling the best.
Yeah.
And that went on for quite a few months.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter if it was Manhattan, Brooklyn, or Queens.
Mm-hmm.
But now, and again, like along with this shift back to Manhattan, we're seeing a shift away from the big buildings to more medium-sized buildings.
Same.
A lot of
and even the single family. I mean, the housing market, not apartment, but the housing market has completely exploded. I mean, listen, COVID changed our perspective forever on everything, on work, on space, on what's most important. I mean, it was a perspective shift for the entire world. It's interesting. It's interesting to see where on a previous show, I talked about, I came back from a Tony Robbins financial seminar, and I'm unpacking on Thursdays. I'm actually about to record the next episode right after we're off. Everything I've learned, and part of it was they all predicted 6% interest rates by the end of the summer. Well, we're 3 months ahead of schedule. Mm-hmm. I believe interest rates will hit probably close to 8% or even 9% before this thing is done. And so it's going to be really interesting to see the implication on pricing and velocity and buyer confidence. It's just such a rare time in the world because inventory is down, rents are insane, and so even as these rates go up, like renting is not a better option because it's so expensive. So even as the monthly goes up with the interest rates, it still makes more sense in many cases to buy versus rent. So it's going to be interesting to see where things go. I mean, no crystal ball. We're in unprecedented times. The government's pulling back all the liquidity from the marketplace. So we'll see. I mean, we're here. We're ready for whatever may come. But
listen, remember, the one thing I try to remind people, I mean, I used to run a media company, right? Media is always trying to catch up and tell a story.
That's right.
Things are always changing. And like there's movement in every direction.
Yeah.
And things are very unpredictable.
Yeah. And look, it's New York and it's America. You can't say prices are up or prices are down with that brush.
They're up and down.
Yeah, you can't even say prices in Brooklyn are up. It's like, well, where?
Yeah.
South Brooklyn, North Brooklyn, co-op, condo. It's like you just. Anyways, well, look, we got a few minutes left. I'd love to ask you, where are the opportunities? Rates are up, but that means prices will likely soften at some point, maybe. There's 2 schools of thought around that. One school of thought is that prices will continue to increase because of rental prices, because of low inventory, and because of inflation. Real estate typically is a hedge against inflation. And there's another school of thought that says, well, buying is so much more expensive, and so we're going to see prices come down. I don't really know which way it's going to go. I don't think anybody does. But, it's never the right or the wrong time to buy.
What I can share with you about new developments is that it's all about the financing of the projects, right? As you know, if there's the need to sell now, they will lower prices.
Yeah, there you go.
If they think they can achieve more profits later, maybe they'll refinance again and buy more time to sell later.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's another layer of decision making that we're seeing starting to happen. That is still TBD.
Amazing. Any neighborhoods you feel are, good buys at the moment? Brooklyn, Manhattan, anywhere you're seeing sort of the herd mentality, people flocking to?
Again, I think it's by building. And, Uptown had some great activity earlier this year. Dumbo right now has a few projects that are doing, really well. There's a project in Gramercy that has just amazing results in just 2 months. It's more than half sold.
Nice.
So it's access to transportation, amenities in the building, the layouts. And I think one of the things right now is that there's been a shift away from kind of big glass buildings towards more brick and classical architecture.
Isn't it funny? Man,
who would have predicted that?
What's next? Bell bottoms?
Right. Who would have predicted that?
It's so cyclical. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah. So there's a lot of luck too.
Yeah. Oh man, what an awesome! Yeah. I could talk to you for the next 6 hours, Kael. My goodness. Any final tips? Any for our viewers, for the brokers out there, or the regular consumers? People looking to buy, sell, rent, whatever. Any final tips? That's it.
Sign up for Marketproof.
Tell us how do people find you? Is it marketproof.com? Tell people how to find you.
Yep, marketproof.com. On Instagram, Marketproof NYC, where we are now. Same on Twitter. And just one little plug for what we're working on. Though we've been very focused on new development condos over the last year and change, soon we're going to get into some other areas of real estate. We have something coming out called Marketproof Pipeline, which will look at all the different types of real estate that are being developed. So it'll be rentals, commercial, office, industrial, because New York is so dense and vertical. These things are all interacting with each other.
Yeah, that's right.
And so our customers have been asking us for different asset classes, different types of real estate, and that's what we have coming next. So marketproof.com.
Amazing. Or if you guys are having a hard time, DM me, email me, and I'll put you guys in touch with Kael and his team. My friend, thank you again.
Thank you for inviting me.
But for what you've created, it is you've served a lot of people with this thing. Even the folks you didn't intend to serve, you've served.
You're my core audience, my friend, my core audience. You're the kind of agent that, this is what the future looks like. Team, people who are data-driven and who are there to serve their customers. So I appreciate you as well.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Well, have a great day. Have a great weekend.
All right.
Time, my friend.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
All right. See ya. Bye-bye.